Hello, the purpose of this training video is to properly demonstrate how to insert a new student who needs to isolate or quarantine into StarRez, or to edit information for current students who are isolating or quarantining. A new form was created on August 27th, and that form is directly in StarRez. This is the form that should be used for all student edits or entries who need to isolate or quarantine, no matter their scenario. This could include students who need to go to the hotel, students that need to fully isolate or quarantine on campus for the entire period of time, or for students who only need to temporarily isolate or quarantine for a day or two until they can get assignments with stamps. First, you'll need to go to housing.godtech.edu to access the form. Once you're there, you can click on My Housing. You will need to log in with your GT credentials. Once you've done that, you'll come up to the home page. At the bottom of the home page, you will see this new form called the admin form. If you do not have access to the form, please contact ryan.green, Grene, at godtech.edu to get access. Once you've received access, you need to enter the student's GTID. You must have the student's GTID in order to be able to make any edits for the student. We'll use my GTID to demonstrate how to do this. Once you've entered that in, you'll see the first few fields are read-only, GTID, name, and gender. Next, you can update the contact number of the individual if you need to do that for some reason. The next one is the status. So they're either isolating, which means they've tested positive, or they're quarantining, which means they have not tested positive. This needs to be updated for every individual. I'm isolating in this example. Next, you have to actually choose whether they're at the hotel or on campus. That's the assignment status. I am on campus in this example. If there's any ADA needs for the individual, they need to be filled out here. Next is the actual housing assignment if they're on campus. So in this scenario, I've been reassigned to Woodruff North 102A to isolate until I can probably move to the hotel. The actual 3-letter indicator for the building, the room number, and then the actual letter for the bed needs to be included, if at all possible. If you're in the hotel, and that's what was chosen up here instead, then you would need to include the hotel room number if you have that information. If you don't, then we can obtain it from the hotel. But that needs to be updated for every record if they're at the hotel. Next is the meals checkbox. Everybody should automatically receive meals, so that needs to be checked for everybody when entering in this information. If a student for some reason is not going to receive meals, then it needs to be unchecked. If a student has decided they don't want to have meals, then they need to opt out. In order to opt out, the checkbox must be unchecked, and they need to actually go to this link down here and fill out a form that has terms and conditions that states that they can safely opt out of the meal, still get food, and not endanger anybody else by getting that food. So whether they're in an apartment and already have food they can cook, or whether they plan on getting it from a friend who can deliver it outside of a door in a safe way. Next, you must include dietary restrictions for anybody who has meals. If you know that the student needs meals and is not getting meals, you need to check to see if this is accurate, and you need to make sure they have dietary restrictions included so that we give them food they can eat. There's only a few more fields. On the contract tracing field, this is very important. If the individual is quarantining or isolating with us and planning on doing that for the majority or the full timeline, then they need to have contract tracing. The only time that temporary relocation needs to be checked is if they're only staying at a specific apartment for a day or two while they can get an assignment from stamps or for some other reason. If they're actually going to plan to be here for the full time or the majority of the time, then it needs to be contract tracing. Why this is important is that this is used to indicate who is contract tracing on campus or at the hotel, and that creates a report that goes to stamps and also upper administration up to the very top, showing who we actually have isolating or quarantining on campus. If they are just temporarily staying on campus and they are relocating only for a day or two, you can check this box, and then another report is able to be created, and we'll pull those individuals who were only temporarily relocating, so we know that. The meals checkbox is going to indicate whether or not they're going to get meals on the meals report. If it's not checked, they will not get meals. If it's checked, they will. The next piece is very important. You must have a start and end date. So if they're isolating, which I'm doing in this example, then there needs to be a difference of 10 days between the start date and the end date. If they're quarantining, it needs to be 14 days. If today is after the end date, then they will no longer receive meals, and it also will not show that they are on the contact tracing report because they've gone past the period of isolation or quarantine successfully. If an individual needs to leave immediately or leave early, you can update the end date, and then that will automatically have them fall off of the meals report and have them fall off of the contract tracing report. If they need to stay longer than the 10 or 14 days, you can extend the period. The actual reports we send out will be based off of the start and end date, so it must be between these starts and end dates in order to give reports that show how many people need meals today and then how many people are currently contract tracing. This must be accurate. Last, you can update any admin comments here if necessary. If you click on the page and there's no data found, it's because the GTID is wrong. Any student on campus or associated with Georgia Tech can have information filled out. They do not have to be a resident at Georgia Tech. They just have to be a student of Georgia Tech. So if it's a Greek student or an athletic student who's living off campus, you can easily update this information still, and it'll go into our reports. But if for some reason the whole thing, the page is blank, it's because the GTID is wrong. It needs to be looked at and try again. You can also click here to go back without saving any changes if you don't want to. Once you fill this all out correctly, you need to click Save and Go Back. Once you click that, it will automatically go into StarRez, and the next time our auto reports are generated or the next time someone manually pulls a report in StarRez, this information will be reflected on the report. If you have any questions going forward with this process in terms of inserting data, please feel free to contact Ryan Green, ryan.green@gottech.edu. Once again, this report is necessary, or this form is necessary to be filled out for any data related to isolated or quarantined students so that all of our reports are correct. Thank you for your time.